So welcome to UCHealth Memorial School of Radiology Information Night. We normally would like to do this face-to-face, but due to our concern and for your safety, we have chosen to do this virtually and post it on our website. So I hope you're all excited to be listening to it, and hopefully we will get back to face-to-face in January. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your inquiry into the School of Radiology. Next slide. So I just want you to meet everybody, and normally we would have them in the audience, but let me let you meet everybody. My name is Elaine Ivan, and I am the program manager here at the School of Radiology. I have a clinical coordinator, Danielle, who you'll be speaking with maybe either online or via the phone. We also have two faculty members, Joe Daly and Meg McCrate, with us, and then we're fortunate to have an administrative assistant, Sarah Padilla, as faculty. So even though we are small, okay, we still have a lot of years of history of X-ray technology. And the best way, since we are small, to get a hold of us is through online, okay, through email. So we have our emails up here for all of you to utilize. You can call us, but we probably will not be able to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Okay, all right, sir. So here's our website. It's www.uchealth.org and / if you see the / rad school. It has enormous amount of information on it, and I wish I could have told you I designed it, but I didn't. A previous colleague did. And so on this will be all our paperwork that you can download to apply to the program. And also there'll be a question and answer section where it'll answer a lot of questions that we get from these information sessions, so to help you kind of navigate through whether this is a program for you or not. Here's the school's history, guys. We've been around. We've been a hospital-based program since 1969 here at Memorial Hospital. We're the only hospital-based program left in the state of Colorado. We have graduated, this slide's a little old, I just counted it last week for a different session, and we've graduated over 400 radiographers since I've been program manager since 1990. The role of a technologist, because a lot of times I get calls and say, I want to be a radiologist. Well, a radiologist is a medical doctor. So that takes 13 years or more of training. What you're all here inquiring about is that you want to be a radiographer or an X-ray technologist. And a lot of people think this just deals with computers. But I want you to know that probably 80% of my job is patient care. And we are still dealing with radiation. So if you look, we expose people to radiation to produce images for diagnosis. And some people worry about that and the health risk to it. But you all know, if you've had an X-ray yourself, that we never stay in the room with you. Okay, we always step outside the room, and there's a lead glass, and if we are in the room with you, we wear lead aprons and lead shielding. So the risk to radiation is very minimal. At one time, I heard that we are using probably over 80% less radiation than we did in 1950. So with the digital imaging that we're using now, it's a lot less radiation. That doesn't mean we still don't respect it. And so you'll notice that when the students come up and talk to you, that they all have an OSL badge on where we monitor their radiation. Okay, so we still are worried about it, and we do wear lead aprons still and thyroid collar when we're doing something like live fluoro or live X-ray, where we can actually watch how your stomach works, or watch while a surgeon's doing surgery on your hip or something like that. That's where we really are concerned about the radiation, and where we use something like time, distance, and shielding. Like I said, patient care is the major aspect of our career. We deal a lot with patient care. We're very similar to nurses. Okay, we're very similar to nurses, except that nurses have 4 to 5 patients a day, if they're lucky. A lot of times they have 7 to 8 patients, but 4 to 5 patients per day, and they get to know the patient for the full 8 hours. We see a different patient probably every 20 minutes. And so you really need to be able to develop that patient rapport quickly and develop that patient trust and confidence. So we do a lot with patient care. We also have the honor of working with physicians side by side, whether that's with emergency room physicians, whether that's with surgeons, or whether that's with our radiologists. That's probably a great aspect of my role as an X-ray technologist, is that I actually get to work side by side with physicians, and they show me different things and they educate me in different areas while we're working with the patient. We can work in many settings as far as working with X-rays. So if you notice, most of the time radiographers work in the hospital setting, but there's also places where we have imaging centers, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Printers Park Medical Plaza. We also have X-ray equipment at urgent cares across different parts of our state and across the country. And there is a lot of imaging work in orthopedic offices where we can hire X-ray technologists. You can also do something like, portable work where you can go to nursing homes and do X-ray work in that area. Or we can do mobile radiology where we can do MRI or CT in smaller rural communities where we take a big truck and trailer and we can do imaging like that. So lots of opportunities of where they may hire a radiographer. The pay changes, I gotta be honest, as far as what geographical location you're at in the United States. Right now here in the Colorado Springs area, we're probably looking at around $22 an hour, okay? At $23 an hour. It may vary whether you work for an orthopedist or you work in an imaging center. Sometimes in more rural areas where they have a difficult time finding imaging radiographers, it may be a little bit more. Maybe in the east, in New York versus the west, also in California, it may be a little bit more. So please check, and we can flip to the other side, and you'll see that I think we have talk about where you can get on the website to find out different salaries. But this PowerPoint slide shows you where different X-ray technologists work. And we've kind of already talked about that. But the major employer is hospitals. Okay. All right, here's where you may train. Okay, it may vary depending on when you apply and when you're accepted. But here's where you may train as a student here at UCHealth Memorial Hospital. So we have students right now at 7 different clinical sites. Memorial Hospital Central, which is a level 1 trauma center, is still the busiest ER in the state. It's the 13th busiest in the nation. So you can imagine you're going to get lots of trauma experience, lots of imaging experience at Memorial Hospital Central. We have Memorial Hospital North, which is a level 2 trauma center. We have Printers Park Medical Plaza, which is that imaging center I'm talking about that could be off-site from the normal hospital. We do a lot of orthopedic work there, so now you can put on your resume that not only do you have trauma experience, you have orthopedic experience, you have outpatient experience at this site. We have Briargate outpatient, which is also largely orthopedic, but you can also get other imaging modalities there. Woodman Clinic serves a family practice, where now you get to look at outpatients where you're looking at not only pediatrics, but geriatrics and family medicine, where you can have experience there. We have UCHealth Grandview that we are now looking to broaden and have as not only a regular hospital or medical center, but also a lot of orthopedic work there at Grandview Hospital. Finally, students are required to travel up to Denver, which for those of you who might be listening out of state, is about an hour and 15 minutes, about 73 miles from your main campus of school at Colorado Springs, Colorado, okay? So you travel up to Anschutz campus, and this is a large, research hospital, also level 1 trauma center, where students get a huge variety, a wide variety of different aspects of the body, but more importantly, they are working with residents. It's a big teaching hospital. They're working with residents and other, nursing students and, physical therapy students, big teaching hospital and research facility where you may see exams that you've never seen before up at the Anschutz campus. So wealth of experience as far as the clinical sites you go to. And if I would tell everybody that's listening to this presentation, my biggest thing is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Apply to several places, okay? And the one thing you want to look at or look for is their clinical sites, because that's where you're going to get your experience. We all teach the same thing, maybe not in the same order in the classroom, but clinically, that's what you want to concern yourself with. So when you're applying to other places, ask them, what kind of clinical sites do your students go to? And then apply to several and look at which one fits your personality, your need best. All right, this is what I was kind of alluding to a couple slides before, is that if you need to look at the job outlook, if you need to look at salaries at various geographical locations across the United States, you want to get at this U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, can't talk. And so I believe, and I might be wrong, but I believe that this field is looking at about a 14 to 18% increase in job opportunities in the field of radiology and other areas like CT and MRI. So it's looking really promising for students who want to get into the imaging fields. I will tell you, COVID has slowed us down just a little bit. Hospitals are working on trying to help those patients that might have come down with COVID, family members, and so we really didn't want to expose anybody else, so we've kind of limited the amount of elective procedures we're doing. And so in that case, they've slowed us down just a little bit, but I think our job opportunities is still looking well, and we all have a positive outlook that we are going to find a vaccine or some way to treat COVID. So I think we're going to be fine. All right, so we talked about the job outlook growing faster than average. We have 8 other schools in the state of Colorado. So we have one in Pueblo, Colorado, which is an hour south of us. We have 4 in Denver, okay? We have 1 in Fort Morgan, 1 in Greeley, and 1 in Grand Junction. And then you can do the same thing in the state where you're from. So if you got on the JRC ERT website, or even the ASRT website, and we can talk about that later, they may help you find different programs in the state where you may come from, or if you're looking to travel here because you're part of the military or anything like that, this will help you. We have 8 other schools in the state. Formal training, yeah. Some states require licensure if you look here, and requirements may vary. We don't require licensure in the state of Colorado. We still think out west that we're cowboys and we don't need that type of licensure and that kind of stuff. But so the 4 states around us, the 4 corners, Wyoming, Colorado, we don't have licensure, but there is many states that do. And so let me tell you what that means. So if you go to X-ray school with us here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and you complete it satisfactory, you're able to sit for the National Registry exam. If you pass that exam, you can go anywhere in the United States, to include the territories, okay, Puerto Rico, Guam, other territories of the United States, and be able to practice X-ray. Several states, though, require licensure. So that might mean, like in the state of California or New York, you have to take an additional radiation protection test. In other states like Texas, Illinois, that may just require you to pay money, okay, to that state to get a license. And don't think to the state government, don't think that's a bad thing, because that allows only radiographers to take X-rays and not just anybody off the streets. So licensure is a good thing, and I hope soon we will achieve that in the state of Colorado. Okay, you can turn. Okay, here's our classroom. We are a small program, guys. We accept 27 students every year in our program. We accept applications, which I'll talk about later on, every year until March 1st. Each student has a computer in front of them that they can use either to, Google Facts or do research papers, or possibly even to bring up, since all our x-rays are digital now, they can bring up images to study or do case studies on, or you might be learning pathology, things like that. We are not like a typical college, okay? So we attend classes Monday through Friday, normally from 8 to 4:30. And what I mean by that is if you're a first year, you're in class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And without COVID being around, you'd be in class from 8 to 2. And then you're in clinic on Tuesday and Thursday, for the most part from 7:30 to 4. If you're in surgery, it's 7 to 3, those kind of things. Your second year, we flip-flop you, okay? And you're in class, okay, Tuesday and Thursday, so that's going to be from 8 to 2. And you're in clinic Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Usually, not always, from 7:30 to 4. We do ask students in their second year, or maybe as they're becoming second years, to get some clinical experience on weekends. It's less than probably 10% of their clinical hours. And then their second year, we ask students to get some clinical experience on evenings. And again, it's less than probably 10% of the number of clinical hours you have to achieve. When we are not dealing with a pandemic, usually that's 1,920 clinical hours in the 2-year program. So think about it. If I say less than 10%, it's really not a whole lot of evenings or a whole lot of weekends, okay? Here is our lab, all right? And so right now, guys, we have a lab across from the didactic classroom. It's a non-energized lab. So what that means is we can't actually shoot an x-ray. And we wouldn't do that anyway. We'd love to, if we have a sore elbow, can you just x-ray it for me? Just in case, we just can't do that anymore. All right, so it's a non-energized lab. Would we love an energized one? Yes, so that we could, x-ray phantoms and maybe do some physics experiments. But right now we have a non-energized lab that students, for the most part, work in on Wednesdays if you're a first year. And that's where we actually practice your craft, okay? We teach you how to x-ray hands. We teach you how to x-ray a knee. We teach you how to x-ray a chest, those kind of things. That's where you're actually practicing your craft, all right? Second years usually have lab during their class time on Tuesday and Thursdays, all right? So yeah, we have a small lab, but these are students practicing right now. Okay. Clinic, we kind of already talked about this. So just to re-emphasize, because sometimes people ask our students who we're going to have up here in a minute, what's your typical schedule? Because most of the time you all have to still work, all right? This is an intense program, but yet you still have to hold down at least a part-time job to afford it. And so the schedule's kind of very important to all of you that's listening to this presentation. So again, let me re-emphasize, it's a fairly full-time commitment on your part. You're with us 5 days a week, anywhere between 6 to 8 hours a day. So it's a really full-time commitment. And seldom we'll talk about how it's not like a normal college where if you feel like you don't want to go that day, you just don't go. That's just not like what it is, okay? All right, so that's what I want to talk about now. Okay, so college-based versus hospital-based. So many of you are working on your associate's degree or undergraduate, okay? And so a normal college program, university or community college program, is you pick your anatomy and physiology, math, English, and you go, okay, I want to go from 7:30 to 8:30 for English, and then 10:30 to 11:30 for psychology, because I need my afternoons free to work. Okay, so you pick a certain schedule, and you get to pick that schedule. You get to look in the catalog and pick that schedule. So let's say you're in an anatomy class, guys, and you're struggling, and you're like going, ooh, I don't want to show this on my transcript. So you go, okay, I'm going to drop that class, and I'll pick it up next semester. Okay? Well, you can't do that in radiology school because one class builds on the next. So you can't add or drop a class while you're going through x-ray school, because you learn like positioning 1 where you're learning extremities, how to x-ray them, And that immediately then goes to positioning 2, where you're learning how to x-ray the spine or the chest. So one class builds on the next. So you can't add or drop because we don't have positioning 1 class the next semester. We're only offering positioning 2. So that's one difference between a college versus this hospital-based program, is you can't add or drop, okay? It's more like an apprenticeship, where you're in class one day, clinic the next, class one day, clinic the next. So if you're a hands-on learner, if you're a visual learner, this program might suit you, because what you're doing is you're actually learning how to x-ray a hand on one day and then actually going to the hospital, the clinical setting the next, and actually getting to x-ray it. Okay, it's so cool. So it's more of a hands-on visual type of learning program. The equipment we use, I gotta tell you, we are fortunate to have state-of-the-art equipment, at least in the clinical setting, okay? State-of-the-art equipment in the clinical setting. It's all digital, and so wherever you go, Memorial Central, Grandview, up in Denver, you're working with the top-notch x-ray equipment that'll help you be able to go everywhere. We talked about the clinical sites we use. I'll have the students talk a little bit more about the student schedule. But like I said, it's a full-time commitment, and so not only are they in class from 8 to 2, but then they got to go home and study, and then the next day they have to do clinic from 7:30 to 4. So it's a pretty, where I think if you ask the students what's the worst part about the program, it's probably the intensity. It's just how much time they spend on it. But we'll ask them, okay? The last thing I want to talk about on this slide is limited scope, because you might have heard about it a little bit. And limited scope is exactly what it says. It limits you in the field of radiology. So there is some programs out there. I think we have one left in the state of Colorado that will do limited scope. And it's about a 9-month program. And they will teach you how to x-ray certain things, except for anything that has to do with the GI tract, okay? Anything that we might have to inject, what you might know as dye, okay? It's a drug, it's contrast, but you might call it dye. You can't do any of that, so it limits you. And so when you get that certificate from that institution, it's going to limit you as where you can get hired. Because hospitals are going to want to hire radiographers because they can do the full scope. They can go to surgery, they can do fluoroscopy. So probably your best bet with a limited scope might be, like orthopedic offices, podiatry offices, chiropractor offices. And I say might be, because because we have radiographers out there, that even those institutions really are wanting to hire radiographers. So be careful when you think about applying to a limited scope program. All right, this is probably what you've all been waiting for, although you can find it on our website also, and that's the prerequisites to get into this program, okay? That's the prerequisites. We try to keep it similar to the other 8 programs in the state of Colorado, because remember, I don't want you to put all your eggs in one basket. I want you to apply to several programs, and then hopefully you have a choice. Because most of us in Colorado get anywhere between 70 to 80 applicants a year, okay? And so then we only select 27. And so sometimes that makes it difficult in that you could be a great candidate. It's just that we can only take 27 based on our clinical sites. So that's why I want you to think about applying to several programs. It's not gonna, when you interview, you probably wanna tell me that you have, because that tells me you're interested. I'm not going to be upset that you've applied to somewhere in Denver, or that because then I know, ooh, they really want this. They've applied to several programs. So the prerequisites we need is either career math or college algebra. Now these numbers that are on the PowerPoint here are mainly dealing with Pikes Peak Community College here in Colorado Springs. They're very similar at UCCS, which is the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. But you might be able to find them in your catalog from where you're from, because we will transfer in credits as long as they are less than 7 to 10 years old and you've achieved a C or better. But for here in this area, El Paso County area, career math or college algebra. So career math is MAT 107, college algebra is MAT 121. We also need college English. which is 121. It's an English composition class, okay? We need psychology, which is Psych 101. If you've already done that and you want to, and we'll talk about how you can increase your points for your application, we'll also take human growth and development, which will correspond with general psychology. And human growth and development is Psych 235. The last two is anatomy and physiology. And every university or community college does it different. So for the most part, it's Bio 201, 202, and they teach a section and then a section. UCCS has just changed theirs where they have just anatomy and then they have just physiology. Your local college or university might do something similar, and so if you can provide us with your transcripts, I can let you know if we can transfer that in as your college anatomy and physiology. All right, so how do I get those people that I want to interview? How do I get those people, okay? Well, again, we do it all on a point system basis, and so I'm probably ahead of myself in slides, but it might correspond to this just a little bit. So we try to make it as fair as possible, and so we do it all on a point system basis. I'm going to give you points for your GPA. Now that's going to be a combined GPA. So if you've gone to several colleges, I need all your colleges, okay? So it's not just going to be your GPA from your prerequisites. I need a combined group of GPA, and I'm going to make this up, okay? So don't quote me on this or call me. So let's say you have a 4.0, then that's going to be worth 10 points, okay? I made that up, okay? I don't have it memorized. And so that's going to be worth 10 points. So we're going to give you points for your GPA. We're going to give you points for previous classes you've taken, and that's what this slide is, beyond your prereqs. Okay, previous classes you've taken beyond your prereqs. So if you've taken biology, chemistry, physics, if you look at this, intro to radiology, human growth, medical term, pharmacology, there's several on here. Now, if you've taken several biology classes, I'm only going to give you those points once. So you could have microbiology. You could have just a general biology course. I'm just going to give you those points once, okay? So we're going to add up all those points, and maybe, I'm going to make this up too, maybe you've taken 7 of those classes. So now you've got an additional 14 points plus the 10 for having a GPA of 4.0. We're also going to give you points if you have any medical experience. So maybe currently you're already a CNA. Maybe you're a patient care tech. Maybe you're a phlebotomist. We're going to give you extra points for that if you're currently practicing in the field. So that's going to be 5 points. We're going to give you points for volunteering. So maybe you volunteered at the hospital. You volunteered at a nursing home. Unfortunately, we can't count volunteer at a soup kitchen. We appreciate it, and it's going to look great on your application, but that's not going to be actually the 3 points. So we'll give you 3 points if you volunteered at a healthcare where you've had a little bit of patient care experience. We're also going to give you 1 point if you've had to take care of a sick relative, a sick family friend. So you can't get 5, 3, and 1. If you got, like you're a CNA, we're going to give you 5 and we're done. Okay, so let's say you were a CNA. So you've gotten 10 for your GPA, 14 for previous classes, and now 5 for, okay, so now you got 29 points. The last thing we're going to give you points on is your employer references. We'd like 3. Ask me, well, what if I was self-employed and couldn't get an employer reference? What I would tell you is if you could, maybe if you've helped out at your church, maybe if you've helped out at your child's school, if you could get somebody that would attest to your dependability, your work ethic, and put it on that employer reference, we're going to be fine, okay? Maybe you've been a stay-at-home mom or dad. Maybe you've been in high school and your job was to keep your grades up. And your job was, you know, keep those up so I can get into college or be part of the band or be part of the chess club. Any of those situations, if you can find someone that can attest to your work ethic. So band takes a lot of work, okay? It really does. Being in student council takes a lot of work. Have that sponsor do your employer reference and talk about your work ethic. being, a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, that is a lot of work. And you have probably done something in, with those children where someone can attest to your work ethic. So please do not let that discourage you from applying. We can work around that, and we just need one employer reference. I mentioned the military too, and honoring our military. Sometimes it's hard to find your most recent sergeant or your most recent, and so because you guys have been deployed or different places. So again, if you can find that one person that can attest to your, what you've been doing in the military, we will work with that, okay? All right, so we can go on, yeah. So institutions we can take credit from. I need institutions that are either regionally accredited, okay? So when I say that, I mean North Central accredited. So make sure you check for that. If you're back east, it's going to be called something different. If you're in the central part of the country, I think it's Central Accreditation. But here in Colorado, it's called North Central Accreditation. We will accept transcripts from there. So make sure you look at that. Unfortunately, some of our schools that are more proprietary, vocational, we can't accept credits from. So if you have questions, please email one of us, and any one of us can answer that. We will take credits from foreign countries, all right? But there is places that will convert those credits from Ukraine, from France, to American credits. So we need you to have that done prior to sending those to us, because we don't have the ability to do that. The age of the transcripts doesn't matter except for a couple courses. So with your college algebra, it needs to be within 10 years or less. That's the same for your English. If it's not, I need you to take what's called an AccuPlacer test. Most community colleges offer it. And what you'll do is, if you can still test in to college algebra and college English, then we'll take your old credit of college algebra if it's 30 years old. We just want to make sure you can still do college algebra, okay? So we needed to have it within the last 10 years. Your anatomy and physiology needs to be within the last 7 years. And I do not know of a test out for that. So as far as the age of your transcripts, we don't mind older ones except for those 3 courses: anatomy, English, and math. English and math, 10 years. Anatomy, 7, okay? Psychology, I'll usually take if it's older, all right? Summer courses, unfortunately, we now start school the end of June, and so you cannot take college courses, summer courses. The reason why that was up there was because we used to start in August, and so a lot of the summer classes ended August 5th, and we were fine. So you need to have all your courses done by the end of June. So you can apply with us and send in your application in March and still be taking spring courses at your local college or university, okay? So don't think, maybe you're in anatomy 2, bio 202. You can still be taking it in the spring as long as you're done by the end of June, okay? And we'll be fine. We talked about the point system. We talked about how you can get more points. And we talked about, do not let high school, and you want to come right after high school. We have someone in the first year class, I believe, that came right out of high school. Don't let that discourage you. Many high school students can take college classes their senior year because they've gotten all their credits that they need for high school. And so they can go to a community college and take those prereqs. You have one, okay, which is, I don't know if you realize Lucas is coming right out of high school, okay? So don't let that discourage you, high school students, because we love to have you, all right? Okay, so how do we compile all this? And I think my next slide is going to talk about it a little bit. So employer references, they're going to have to be sent to us individually. So you're going to have to send them, and we'll prompt you with this the next slide or two. We'd love you to combine some things though, okay? We really would love you to combine some things. So your main application, you might include a resume with it. Anything that you can, put in that aren't being sent to us. So I know transcripts have to be sent to us to be confidential, and secure and all that. So we'll talk about that on the next slide. We talked about our deadline. This is set in stone. Okay, March 1st, we don't take excuses if you get it to us March 2nd. It's definitely March 1st is the deadline for applications. We do usually accept 27. It's based on how many clinical sites we have, okay? That's important and when you're applying to programs, because you don't want a bunch of students at a clinical site where you're stepping on each other's toes. So I think the most we have at a clinical site right now is Memorial Central, and we might have 4 or 5 students for a large institution. So you don't want to step on each other's toes. We start usually the last week in June, but in June there is going to be some workshops you need to get done. And so my suggestion would be don't plan a major vacation in June. Do it in May before you start, and we'll get everything done in June, okay? We talked about placement tests, okay? This is important, and I apologize for it. I wish you could apply more than 3 times, but sometimes that's a cue that, you know what, this culture might not fit your personality, but there's other x-ray schools that might. And so after 3 times, we ask you to look at other places to apply to, or maybe other careers. So you can apply 3 times. All right, so this is the slide that I knew was going to prompt me to help know how to submit things, because it does get confusing. And still, you might listen to this presentation 3 or 4 times and you're still not sure. But here's what we'd like you to submit, okay? The application list, the application form, why you want to be a radiology tech. Send that all together, okay? By email. You can scan it also, okay? So no worries there, and we've given you the email here. Or you can snail mail it, okay? And that's an option too. It'll get to us. We've been part of Memorial since 1969. They know about the radiology school. As far as high school transcripts, employer references, even character references, we really want to seal the envelope. And those are 2 different things. So a character reference, we want somebody to attest to how they think your character will apply to radiology school. You know, maybe you're very dependable, maybe, so they're just 2 different things, your employer and your character. And again, I'm sorry guys, you can send it by email or also by mail. This is Sarah, she's wonderful, guys, she does all this for me. And so you can also email to Sarah Padilla, and we've included that on here for your, I was going to say for your pleasure, but no, that's, okay. All right, so I'm not going to talk about this too much, but anyway, guys, we are accredited, and that's important because you can't take the national exam unless you go to a school that's accredited. So just be careful about those, transcript mills and stuff like that. You really want to pick a place that's accredited. Okay, Sarah, you can go on. We award an Associate of Applied Science degree, okay, even though we're hospital-based. So we're able, through the state of Colorado, the Division of Private Occupational Schools, able to offer an associate's degree. But, okay, I don't know how well it transfers, and I want to be very honest with all of you listening, okay? So what we've done is we've set up a collaboration agreement with Pikes Peak Community College. And if you've taken at least 15 credit hours from Pikes Peak Community College and then successfully graduate with us, then they will take those credits with the 15, you have to have taken 15 with Pikes Peak, and award you an associate's degree from Pikes Peak Community College in radiology. And anytime, it has a Pikes Peak Community College, it probably transfers a little bit better than if it comes from UCHealth, a hospital. We also have a collaboration agreement with University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. And if you do their prereqs with them, okay, and then they will transfer in 42 of our credits. And then you usually have to go back for a few more, because think about it, a bachelor's 120 credit hours. So they're taking 42 of ours, and then you do your prereqs, right, which are going to take 15 to 18 credits. So, but they will take 42, which is nice, and they'll award you a bachelor's in allied health. You have to stay in the College of Allied Health. So it's not like they'll take the 42 radiology credits and you can do a business degree. So I don't want you to think that either. But as far as transferability, if you wanted to go to sonography school, so ultrasound school, or radiation therapy, or nuclear medicine, all of our credits will transfer just fine. This is mainly if you wanted to go on and learn your bachelor's. Although there's many institutions out there that will take, online institutions that will take our credits, okay? Most of them, 60 to 80 credits, and then you finish the rest through them to get your bachelor's. So again, don't be discouraged. I do want to be honest though, I went to x-ray school through a college, a community college, but then went on and got my business degree, okay? So out of the 90 credits, this was way back, I'm old guys, way back in 80, well I graduated in 95 from UCCS. Out of the 90 credits I had from my community college, they accepted 11. And that's because I chose business. I already had my healthcare and I chose business, okay? I didn't choose something like allied health. So don't get discouraged. Things are transferable. I don't know if that's English, okay? Here's some additional career opportunities people always ask us for. I know you're concentrating on x-ray right now, and that's what I want you to concentrate on. But you can go into medical sonography, radiation therapy, and nuclear medicine. Those top three, you do not need to be an x-ray tech. So if you find a school across the country, you can go directly and be an ultrasound tech. You can go directly and be a radiation therapist. We have we have 3 ultrasound schools in the state of Colorado, 2 in Denver, 1 in Pueblo. Those 3, for the most part, like an x-ray background, but you need to check with them. One's at Red Rocks Community College, at our sister hospital up in Anschutz, okay? And then one in Pueblo Community College. There is no radiation therapy or nuclear medicine school here in the state of Colorado. The interventional CT, magnetic resonance imaging, mammography, and bone dex, you all need an x-ray degree, okay? So you need to go to x-ray school first, and then the rest of this, like interventional, still is kind of on-the-job training. You have to get 16 hours of formal education, the rest is on the job. CT, most programs across the country are semester long, okay? MRI, most programs are a year to 18 months. And then mammography is again another semester. And bone dex. So these are all different modalities you can go into after you have your x-ray training. You can think about another $5,000 to $10,000 increase in salary, maybe more. I want to keep it low just in case I'm wrong. Okay? All right, next slide. All right, again, this is probably another section you've been wanting to hear. You maybe even fast forwarded through this presentation just to hear this part. Okay? So the tuition costs. Okay? We are now $21,000 for the 2-year program. So we ask you to pay $10,500 each year. You do not have to do it all in a lump sum. It's $3,500 per semester. So we have 6 semesters. We divide 6 into 21,000, and we ask you to pay $3,500. We do not, I want to emphasize, we do not do anything with FAFSA or Title IV. So that is probably the biggest drawback to our program. Otherwise, the clinical experience you get, the personal one-on-one experience you get is great. But unfortunately, we do not do anything with Title IV, okay, like the Pell Grant, CARD, a guaranteed student loan, those kind of things. We are able to defer your loans that you might have had to get your prereqs. We are able to do that, but we are not able to participate in financial aid. So students will talk about how they've done this to get through it. Books will run you, I'm looking at the students right now, around $500 to $700, $500 to $700. We don't ask you to use a certain book distributor. We'll give you one, but you can go online and get them, used books on Amazon, those kind of things. So I'm going to quote you around $500 to $700. That's a one-time fee. You only have to pay that once, and that'll get you through the 2 years. Okay? The registry will cost you about $200 currently. I skipped uniforms, I apologize. Normally students start out with 2 to 3 uniforms. It's probably around $50, okay, for the pants and the top. We do require a certain uniform. We require patches, which are $5 a piece, so let's say 55, and then we ask you to have either all black or all white shoes. And so that can be, depending on how comfortable you need them and all that kind of thing, can be somewhat expensive. So think about uniform cost, and most people go about 2 to 3 uniforms. We talked about government loans that we don't do, that we can defer them. We do offer the GI Bill, okay? So that's important for all of you. We do offer the GI Bill, so we'll have students talk about that. And so as long as you have, so many years of service, you've gotten some credit, and we can apply that to this program. And then the nice thing about this is, don't forget to look at the place where you're currently working. And when I say employee tuition assistance, I went to X-ray school right out of high school, and then went back and got my undergraduate when I was working full-time for Memorial Hospital. And they were gracious enough to help me pay for it, okay? Right now, I think a full-time employee gets around $3,000 a year. So that's what helped me work with my undergraduate. I then waited, and I think in 2004, I went back and got my graduate. And again, I had that employee tuition assistance. So don't disregard that, and look at your current employer and see if they offer something like that. Okay. So we talked about the financial information, and that $3,500 per semester. Unfortunately, we don't have payment plans. So again, you really got to take some time to think about that, and can I afford this? We will take any scholarship you can find. And I know they talk about, if you have red hair, we can do these scholarships. I haven't figured that out yet, guys. I can't seem to find those, but if you can, we will take it, all right? And then I didn't want to, not in this, because we're almost done, in this part without talking to you about Pikes Peak workforce. So there's a Denver workforce if you come from Denver. There's a Pueblo workforce if you decide to commute either way and come to our program. And Pikes Peak Workforce is a federal program that offers a grant to students. You don't have to pay it back. They usually like to wait until your second or third semester, but currently they are offering our students $4,500. So that really helps. And we do have a couple small scholarships here at the program from previous program directors or previous students. So that's a possibility. All right, so we've added this all up for you here, and so I won't go back through it, but please, I know you can see this on our presentation, so take a look at it and see how you can adjust or, save some money and be able to get through our program. All right, so I'm going to bring up our students and not recent anymore, recent alumni. All right, so if I can have you guys come up with me. So you want okay, we're going to just have Maribel. She's the brave one, okay? She's my first year student, and I appreciate her coming up, okay? Okay, so this is Maribel, guys, and she starts, so this presentation was filmed in September, and she started with us the end of June, all right? So I'm just going to ask her a few questions that I get from when you all call me, all right? So the first one, Maribel, is give us a brief history on how you first became interested in the radiology field.
Well, I became interested a couple of years back. I'm a military spouse, so, with my husband moving around a lot with PCS and getting deployed and all that good stuff, I was looking for a career that I could really take with me everywhere he went, and eventually I ventured upon X-ray, and here I am.
Good. So how was your experience since you're a newer student, and probably the second years can't remember?
With the
With the application and interview process.
Well, it went really well for me. I only had one little bump on the road. My anatomy 1 happened to be more than 7 years old. So Elaine and Sarah were very quick about catching that, and I was fortunately able to take it in time and still start the program. But other than that, everything went really well. They're super responsive.
So you can see she has a mask on, okay? And so with COVID here, guys, going on, while starting this program, she did start it in the midst of COVID. How have you had to adjust?
Well, first of all, I had to adjust my expectations because when I applied, I went in thinking that we would be, in the in-classroom setting. And then, flip-flop to having to do everything online. I also had to adjust my own expectations about, self-accountability. Being at home while you're in class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 2 with all of those distractions, you really have to hold yourself accountable for your learning because, you are paying for this program. But other than that, I guess
You're back in clinic, right?
Yeah, we're back in clinic. The benefit is that I haven't done in-person learning. So to me, this is kind of normal now.
Okay. Tell us your experience being a first-year student, Maribel, like clinic, lab, class. You already kind of talked about online classes,
Yeah.
but how about your experience in clinic?
I was super anxious to jump into clinic because we started a little bit late because of COVID. But clinic has been probably my favorite part, because we get to apply everything that we learn in class into the clinical setting. And you get to see what you're going to be doing day to day. So, we're really fortunate to have been able to do that even with COVID still going on. So it's been going really well overall.
Shooting X-rays is fun.
It
huh?
is.
It's fun.
It is.
Okay.
Doing crazy things.
All right. So as she talked about her husband being military, you're utilizing his VA benefits.
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us your experience with working with school staff and getting tuition, paperwork, all that done.
So my husband had to start the process because, he had to transfer his benefits to me and, meet all of the criteria for that. So once he did that, all I had to do was submit my award letter to Meg or Elaine, and then they took care of the rest of it. So it was actually pretty easy. And they understand that the VA kind of does things at their own pace. So, yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, Maribel, because I know they want to hear from other people too, right? So tell us how you or other students, and we already know how you're paying for it, but she has 26 other students in her class. So tell us how other students pay for tuition while attending this program without that help from financial aid.
Right.
What are they utilizing?
Personal loans, credit cards. Some people have saved up for the program. Some people have the support of their family. And or the VA. There's a couple of us that are using the VA in the program. So there's ways to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, we got some second years also here, okay, to answer any questions, and I got a few. And again, if you kind of listen to Maribel or these second years and you're going, ooh, I would have asked this too, please let us know. The best way to do that is to email us. And so I think Sarah, come in just a little bit, guys. They're worried because I don't have a mask on, so I'll put my fancy mask on, okay? So come in just a little closer so the camera can see you, okay? So, yeah. So if you want to start out with your name, I should have done that with Mary, and tell us about yourself, second year. Okay, brief history on how you first became interested, all that.
Okay, my name is Sierra, and I became interested because I was actually talking to a family friend about sonography, so I was able to shadow her and kind of watch her for the day, and so the imaging field kind of really interested me. And so when I started looking at programs, I was looking at sonography first. And like Elaine said, you don't need this as a background. However, when I was looking though, like the different modalities of MRI and CT and all the doors that opened, then I started really focusing on this program itself, and being an X-ray tech, because it can open so many more doors and you're not just limited to that. And so I just kind of found it and I went with it.
Okay, so Bree, right?
Yes.
She kind of talked about that. And I know Bree and I worked a lot together, not only because she was coming from out of state for many reasons, finding apartments and stuff like that, but also the financial piece because, she was used to in her state. So you want to talk a little bit about maybe how you became interested, why you came out here maybe, why, because, you got to ask yourself what program I'm going to choose and things like that. And then, that dang paying for tuition, right?
Yeah. So my name's Bree. I became interested in the field. I've always been interested in the medical field. I was originally going for nursing. One of my uncles was a radiologist, and then I do have a radiographer in my family as well. So that kind of got me interested in the radiology field. I like the idea, like Sierra said, how you can move on. There's other options. You're not just stuck in one thing. There's so many other things that you can do. So that was my biggest attraction to it. that's kind of why I got into it. And then moving out here, I think my dad actually found the program. I don't know why. I had applied to one back in Idaho where I'm from, but the clinical hours, you didn't start clinic until about a year into the program, which just scared me. And with this one, I really liked the idea that I would be going to clinic so often, just because my worst fear is graduating and not feeling comfortable. So with this school, I decided to pick it because it was one of the only ones that I found that had so many clinical hours, and I just thought that was going to be huge for me to be successful. So we just kind of
Yeah, and I appreciate
did it.
I appreciate you mentioning that because I only know about the state of Colorado, guys. But we have 400 more hours of clinical than the community colleges here in the state. So we have 400 hours more of clinic than the community colleges do. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah.
So I know both of you, but you deal with a lot of people in your class, okay? How do you think they balance work and family? Because I know both of you, you have family, but maybe not kids and married and, all that kind of. So how do you think your classmates balance work and family? Because I know we have a lot of single mothers out there, single fathers wanting to apply. How do you think they balance work and?
I definitely can't attest to single mothers or anybody that has kids because I'm all alone. But I just think of it as a 9-to-5 kind of job. And so in that kind of 9-to-5, I'm really focused on completing everything that needs to be done. And then as far as focusing on the rest of it, it's kind of I'm at work from 9 to 5, and then I can be with my family for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Bree kind of agrees. So Bree, how many hours on average do you spend studying per week? And I know it's different
Yeah.
for all your classmates,
Yeah.
but if you can think of an average.
So at the beginning, I don't really know what I was doing, I can't remember, but now I try to put aside at least an hour a day just to even get ahead on things, even if I don't have anything to do, just kind of get ahead. So yeah, about an hour a day. I mean, when I'm preparing for a test, it's obviously more than that, and the weekends are great for that too.
While you're still on that subject, do they offer support for students having trouble with subjects?
Yeah, all of our teachers, if you need help, you can go in. They'll meet you at the lab. Meg will even meet you really early in the morning at a clinic site if you need help with things like positioning, or they're all really great. You can go in and meet with any of them anytime.
Okay. So Sierra, I'm going to give this one to you, and be honest, because I really want you guys to know what you're getting into. I don't want you to be shocked or surprised. So would you tell them all what you like and dislike about the school and or the profession?
I definitely like that there's so many places that we get to go to, and a lot of the experience that we get, just seeing different things going into surgery, seeing fluoro and nurse. I live in Parker, so a big downside is I've got to commute down to the Springs, even for class and for clinic. And so I would really say if you do come here, you live in the Springs area, because when you do travel up to Denver, you can carpool. That's a lot easier than traveling. But other than that, I like that it's a smaller kind of base program, and there is only 4 instructors, which is really nice because it's it's a lot of information, but with it being so small, you definitely get a lot of help when you need it. And then another, disadvantage is it's also an advantage. There's so many techs that you work with, so you learn a lot of the tricks and the trades, but you also have to know who you're working with and
Who
how
likes
they
what.
have their style and who likes what. So that's kind of hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
But it's also definitely a good thing because you get to learn a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to complete this, although Sierra also deals with VA and is utilizing the VA, so if she wants to add anything that Maribel didn't talk about. But the last thing I think they might want to know is describe a typical day in the life of a student.
So we're either in class, clinic, or lab. So when you go to class, when you were in person, you would you would have the different teachers would take turns teaching you. And then clinic, you go to whichever site you have. You rotate through the sites. You're either in the Memorial Pod or you're in the Denver Pod, and then you switch after semesters. And then you go to lab. And in clinic, you're you're shooting x-rays, you're going and getting the patients, and
So almost the first month, right? I mean,
yeah,
probably
right
after the
away,
first month.
yeah.
Probably after the first month, all of you, you actually get to kind of get your hands
Yeah.
in there, and otherwise you're observing. We always have a radiographer with you, folks,
Yeah.
so we're very aware of patient safety and student safety, so we will always have a radiographer with you. Well, anything else you want to mention about the VA, Sierra, or?
So I was in, so I get 50% of the VA, and so the other half that I do have to pay for. I know that a lot of people do work part-time. I own a company, so that's kind of how I pay for the rest of that. And then you have,
Yeah, I'm working
Yeah.
part-time, and then like Elaine said, the Pikes Peak workforce is awesome. I would definitely recommend looking into that, because the people there are awesome and they really help you figure it out. It's not a hard process. And then I've gotten a couple scholarships from the school, which has been awesome, so.
Well, thank you, you two.
Thank you.
And good luck on your graduation, and
Thank you.
wishing
Thank
you
you.
well. So our last person that we would like to present, and I apologize for not being face-to-face where you can ask these questions yourself, but I hope that this presentation has answered a few until we can get back to face-to-face and in-person, and hopefully, I'm hoping in our January open house or information night. But this is Ronnie, an alumni, and you know what happens a lot with our graduates is they move up in their career. And so now he's associate radiology manager at Memorial Hospital, and so I think a lot of you are leaders that get into this program and then graduate. So again, Ronnie, I've been asking everybody, okay? But give us a brief history on how you first became interested in the program, and we'll go from there.
So Ronnie got interested in the program. I started transporting in healthcare at 17. So Dad was a pharmacist and kind of got into the hospital setting, transporting down to X-ray, surgery, discharges, and every time I went to X-ray, I always interacted with the techs. X-ray first, and then go to MRI, IR, and then when I started working at Memorial, kind of the same thing, became a transporter over there, and worked there for 5 years. Same thing, so the tech started showing me stuff. I started helping out on portables and MRI, helping get patients on the table, off the table, kind of learning about MRI safety. So just being around that atmosphere, I kind of gravitated towards the radiology side of things.
Yeah. So if you notice, guys, he worked at a hospital, and that could be any one of you. It could be, we've had people that were EKG techs, people that were patient care techs, phlebotomy, those kind of things. And then I know, Ronnie, you also use the tuition reimbursement.
Yes, so for me, since I worked there over 4 years, I ended up getting the max amount. So how I ended up paying for it, I saved up for the first semester, and then tuition reimbursement covered the second, and I saved up for the third, and I went back and forth the entire program. So when I came out, I didn't have any debt or back or anything, so tuition assistance really helped me.
All right, so, you know, even though I'm here, you can be honest, okay? And tell us about your experience going through this program.
Going through the program, I'll say two things. It's tough and challenging. Challenging in the sense of you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, from patients to techs to classmates. So just kind of managing how to interact with them. And then tough just because it's 2 years.
Yeah.
It's back to back. It's Monday through Friday. In your second year, you do weekends, and then you also do a couple of evening shifts. So just be able to managing and balance out that life. You have to be ready for
Yeah,
it.
family life, work life, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, so what opportunities, and I kind of bragged on you already, but what opportunities have been presented to further your career in radiology?
So for me, before I got an X-ray, I transitioned to a assistant for MRI. So MRI is what I kind of wanted to do. So I was going from X-ray, MRI, get my CT. Well, I ended up doing X-ray, then getting into leadership and doing that for a little bit, and then I went and got CT, MRI, just to have that background to understand what the techs are doing. So you can go to CT, which was 6-7 months, and then MRI was about 8 to 9 months. But overall, just getting that background and interacting with the techs and seeing it from a different side, I outside of the X-ray portion, definitely see a lot more of what we're doing in radiology.
I agree. And keeping Ronnie up here, because we are getting to the point where we're ending this presentation. But as you can tell, that one thing Ronnie mentioned is that this is a 2-year program. And how often can someone say, you know, my daughter was psychology major, that right out of X-ray school, you can get a job. You know, we have had 100% placement rate since I've been director, since 1990. We have a 98% national exam rate. So, but how often, for all of you that are listening, that you can go to a school and then feel like you can be employed immediately after? I know Maribel mentioned that, you know, it was a career that was 2 years and that she could move with, that she could go from state to state and work. So I want to thank you all that are listening right now for being interested in radiology. I want to encourage you all to ask a lot of questions if you have them. And I hope that we will be able to see you in person sometime soon, maybe the 1st of 2021. There we go. So thank you so much and look forward to speaking with you.